Oh yeah,
Is
we're
this
live,
podcast
dog.
is this podcast sponsored by One Hungry Angler?
I don't know. Did you eat dinner?
I literally missed it. I was on camera eating dinner while you were late. And actually, ironically, it was
I missed.
pizza.
See, there you go.
You almost missed the podcast. We shouldn't have called him. All right, I'm starting it off. You guys ready?
You are listening to the Alpha BassCast with Jake Boomer, Brian Smith, and Bo Fletcher.
Will you take those off? You're
No.
offending everybody.
Welcome to the Alpha BassCast, where if you've noticed, there's been a wardrobe change because Bo was like you and Brian were the same exact thing in every one. So I went back and looked. It's true. We look at the exact same clothes.
100%.
My excuse is that I work from home and very rarely wear anything. I mean, hoodies, and I live in my little Unabomber dungeon, so I don't have a real.
You don't get out
reason.
much.
I don't. It's horrible. But while I was doing my taxes today, I watched Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan, and Tim Dillon had this huge set of sunglasses on, and I'm like, if he can do that, I'm rocking it.
Yeah, there's a difference between him and you. He makes it look cool. You make it look dumb.
I don't know. I think Boomer just got a haircut. I mean, he's got an edgy shirt with letters on it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. We don't know what it says.
It's
Oh,
the
there you
Van Wert
go.
Nationals. Yeah,
The best part about it is, like, when he puts those big sunglasses on, we actually can't see a lot of his face, so it's better for the viewership, I think.
Our YouTube views are going to go up.
All right,
This
so
is
tonight is Hayden
something.
Lee, right?
Yes.
Which
Hayden
I
Lee.
think he's kind of a sneaky genius. The funny thing is that after I heard about Alex and we interviewed him last week or whatever, I talked to Hayden about it a little bit. He's like, oh yeah, he won so many ABAs that people quit coming to ABAs. So from the outside, from being from the Northwest and all that kind of stuff, I don't know the scene, right? But Alex has been dominating for a long time, especially in the Motherlode areas. So I'm guessing you guys know how good Hayden is, but from my perspective, I just show up and there's this guy that's always in the top 10. And it was funny. I fished 4 tournaments before somebody told me who his dad was. So I don't know. I didn't know as much of who Hayden was, but I do now. 100% I do now. So people know about him, obviously.
Yeah.
He's the real deal.
Last year, he was the guy that wore the Bass Angler magazine jersey.
Because he had to wear something, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't think, for whatever reason, he didn't have one put together. Mark was like, you have to wear this. And so
awesome.
that's how I was like, who's the guy in the Bass Angler magazine jersey with blue jeans on that's kicking most of the field's butts?
The guy kicking your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Jason Hickey, and I don't remember. I think we were fishing next to each other or something, and Hayden went by and he was flipping some tulies, and he goes, that right there is pure art. Like, you only get that from being raised by one of the best. And I'm like, well, I have no, who are you talking about? Because Hayden Lee, Robert Lee's son. I'm like, oh, that's who that is? No wonder. But like, I wouldn't know. Like, I'm not in the California scene. I drive down, get my teeth kicked in, and I head back north. You know, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I can respect the not having a jersey thing, because I remember it was the Wild West, the first championship that I fished. Gary came up to me. He was running it at the time. Gary came up to me and he was like, where's your jersey? You're leading this thing. You're in the top 5. I was like, I don't have one. I was wearing a white t-shirt. It was just a straight white t-shirt. He was like, I got to get you a jersey. So he got me one of the like event coordinator, like the volunteers jerseys that just say Wild West all over. It was pretty ugly. So I had to wear that thing all day. I still have it, but I can respect that.
The Northwest is different. If you wear a jersey up here, like I won't wear my jersey most of the time. Like, I will when we get on stage if we do well. You got to wear it if you're going to get the Phoenix first flight money. So I always have one in the boat. But if you wear a jersey up here, everyone's like, "What's up, man? Like, what are you selling? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Big pro guy.
what's your problem? Why are you wearing a jersey?
It's
What's your
actually
problem?"
funny you bring up the Phoenix First Flight thing, because so I was weighing in and I knew I was going to win that tournament. And I had the Wild West thing on, and I was like, "Hey Gary, do I need to have?" I was running a Ranger at the time. I was like, "Do I need to have the Ranger Cup thing shirt on to be contingent?" So he called. I think he called Keith Tripp. He was like, and he called him. It was like a 2-minute conversation. He was like, "Yeah, take that thing off." So I ended up wearing a white T-shirt, the white Ranger Cup T-shirt, Ranger Cup, across the stage when I won. Just so I could be contingent.
You get a black marker on your and write Smith on the back of it.
Pretty much. Hey, it's not how you start.
Gotcha.
I'm
get
excited to get them on.
Let's talk one more contingency story. Let's talk about failing to pay for contingency money, because I think that's happened before in this group. I don't know if my pen's pointing to the right guy. Wasn't there a recent tournament?
Baby.
How much did you forget to apply for?
So it was the U.S. Open, which I went over and looked when somebody posted something about the Yamaha power play money. I was like, oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that. So I wasn't signed up for the Yamaha power play money. And then I text Chris Brown, he works at Skeeter. He's the guy that kind of takes care of me. I was like, "Hey, I did not sign up for the Skeeter money. It's $7,500. Like, it is not a small contingency." I was like, "Hey, is there anything you could do, like, to maybe backlog this? Maybe, just trying to get like $1,000. Like, hey, I screwed up. Can I still get $1,000 contingency?" And this is how good those guys are at Skeeter. He texts me back like 10 minutes later. He's like, "Well, luckily I signed you up for it at the beginning of the year, or else you'd be out of luck." So that check
so you did get it.
I did. The check came the other day.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, but I definitely screwed up on the Yamaha money. So that was...
See, I was curious if this story was a pretense to your new brand, because if you don't pull all your contingency money, you're probably one hungry angler.
Thank you for that. Perfect segue. Oh, I'm wearing this shirt. I had no idea.
Oh, nailed it.
Thank you. Yeah, I would have been one hungry angler without that.
Yeah.
I literally I text Chris back. I was like, "Oh, thank you so much. Jensen's going to actually be able to get... My son's actually going to be able to get Christmas presents this year."
It won't be butter sandwiches this week.
We can afford some real food. We can make a real pizza for one. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, always sign up for your contingencies. It's January. Sign up for them. That's the first thing I did before that BAM tournament. And I signed up for all my contingencies. But it's good to be reminded of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's always when you're not signed up for it when you win it.
That's one of the reasons to not sign up, because then you'll win, right?
That is true. Like I remember when I first started fishing team tournaments with my buddy, we would literally not get in the options because we thought it would jinx us.
The more you spend, the less you make.
Yeah. So over the year, we probably missed out on a couple $100. And then the TOC came and we were like, "Oh, well, we really want to win this, so we're not going to do any of the contingents or the option money." And we got third. And I remember the tournament director showing us the money. He had all the option monies in these envelopes, and he shows it right to us and then gives it to fourth place because we got third. And it was like $2,000.
Oh.
So I've done the options ever since.
I would say you're done with the superstition.
Yeah. Superstitions aren't worth it.
So I'd say text him, get him on when he's ready.
There he is.
He's on.
There he is. What's up, Hayden?
What's up?
What is going on, buddy?
You're part of the technological world now, Hayden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his thing is still uploading faster than yours.
Yeah, Jake, yours is hella clear. Everyone else's is all blurry.
Well, they're trying to blur mine out. I was wearing my glasses earlier, but I didn't even know what screen I was looking at for doing the interview. Yeah, we just got done talking about you, but so we'll hit you with a bunch of questions. How many podcasts have you done in the past?
0.
So the best part is I feel like this is going to be, we talked earlier, I got a feeling that this is going to get pretty common for you, because we talked about how when you start to get really consistent and always make top 10s, it's not very long before you just start winning all the time. Colby Pearson's a great example. It's like you move up the ladder one little bit at a time, but you only missed one top 10 last year, and it was by one place, I believe.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm hoping for, at least. I think I've top 10 the last 5 events between the BAM and the BAM Pro-Ams. So hopefully it carries on through the Super 60 and the everything else.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I've got your points up here, and the only reason I bring them up is because you just stomped my guts in it at Shasta.
Let's rub it in.
I think the last 3 podcasts I've listened to, Jake's been talking about how he sucks at Shasta.
Oh, dude, I suck.
Whoa.
Yeah, give him some tips for Shasta, Hayden. He needs all the help he can get.
Yeah.
You got to stop being so negative. You got to be positive about it.
Oh, there it is.
True story. I really do like Shasta. The problem was I had so much, I was so fired up to go on Sunday or whatever. We had an off day, but you made a comment right before you weighed in that the pattern or whatever you were on, if we wouldn't have had the cancellation day, you might have had a chance to really move up. Maybe not win, but really move up, because you're consistent. You're like 13 and 14 pound bags, right?
Yeah, I think I had a little over 28 pounds for 2 days. But that's how Shasta goes. I mean, look at Greg Gutierrez. He's won multiple times and he's never weighed in a huge bag or nothing. I mean, if you hit that 14, 15 pound mark for 2 days, and the third day, anything can happen. I don't want to take away from Alex or nothing. He won, and I'm not saying I would have beat him or nothing, but I think I would have had a better chance. But we got wind delay, so it is what it is. I mean, Alex is a great fisherman. He was on him, so anything can happen. But on any given day, he can catch 10 pounds, and that might just be something for me when the wind's blowing and stuff. I'm like, I want to go, I want to go, but it was unsafe conditions, for some guys. It's just how it goes with the insurance stuff. So if they're not going to get covered if something happens, then it's how it is. But Alex was catching them, so I've fished against Alex my whole life. I don't think he's going to slip. So congrats to him.
Yeah. You
for sure.
So
I think I'd have had a good shot at second.
So you come from the Motherlode region, and that region just kicks out so many great anglers. You got Alex, you got yourself, your dad, Randy Pearson, a lot of Christian Ostrander, a lot of really great consistent anglers. And if you look at that area, you would think that there'd be a lot of specialists there, light line guys, because it's all generally pretty clear water. I know you have the Delta pretty close too, so that gets a little bit of help of widening your bases. But why does that region kick out so many consistent anglers who can compete around the whole Western region?
I think it's just the diversity of the lakes. I mean, Maloney's especially fishes a lot like Shasta, on very high rain years with high water and raising water. I mean, you can go flip not mats, but pitch piles and throw a swim jig and a chatterbait and do that. But years like this year where we're not having a lot of rain, we haven't had nothing for rain compared to, up north, Shasta and Clear Lake and stuff. Our lakes have just stayed stable. And they're, it's worm bite all the way around. It's you're either throwing a swim bait this big or you're throwing a worm that big. So
Shasta. Sounds like Shasta.
Sounds like
Well,
Shasta. That exactly.
And it also makes sense because talking to Alex, we learned that, he's good at really big and really small.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how it is for all of us. The in-between baits, your 5-inch swim baits and your 6-inch swim baits, those aren't really, they don't get bit. I think one of the reasons those big swim baits get bit is just because the fact that it draws them so good. And that it's, when you throw a bait this big, it's hard for a fish to think it's fake, As time's gone on, though, I think it's a little bit, they've seen it more and stuff. But it's a lot easier to say no to a jig or something that they've seen a lot.
Yeah. You made a comment, the comparison between Maloney's, the way it fishes, and the way Shasta fishes is really close. And I think you said 5 out of the top 10 guys at Shasta were from the Motherlode area. So is Altaville, Oakdale, there's 2, Angels Camp, Oakdale. So that's 5. 5 out of the top 10 are all Motherlode anglers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was 4 out of the top 6 is what I said.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Alex
That's
won, Randy got 2nd, I got 4th, and I'm blanking on his name.
Bruce Harris.
Bruce Harris, yep, that's it. Yeah, I think he got 5th or 6th, one of the two.
Yeah. Hey, Scott Burke.
They're all Motherlode.
Scott Burke is from Oakdale and got 7th.
Really?
Yeah. And then where's Yuba City? Yuba City wouldn't be close to the Motherlode though, right?
No,
not really. I mean, those guys might travel to like Comanche maybe, but not really.
Do you think that those guys excelled in this tournament because it was sunny, the water was clear?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think so. 100%.
So those finesse tactics really played, and you guys know, like, obviously you're used to fishing clear water, sunny days, because that region, a lot of times it just doesn't get a lot of rain, and you're stuck with that clear water year round.
Yeah, I thought we got some rain last night, and we went to Maloney's today, and I went into a couple of the creeks, going, because it was blowing like 40, 50 today. There was 4-footers on the main lake, so we went to a couple creeks, and I expected there, to be some stained water, and it must have just not rained last night. It rained. We get mist a lot for some reason. It just goes around us in the Motherlode. And I was seeing, 9, 11 feet deep, in the backs of the creeks.
Oh, wow.
Which is not that fun. You want to, the best bite is when the main lake's clear and you can go into the pot because it spreads the field out, Guys are throwing spinner baits and jigs up in the creeks, and then, guys are out on the main lake throwing worms and big swim baits. But what was the question you guys asked me again?
I think you answered it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, you answered it. You were
You
good.
did.
No, the best part was I saw you after that tournament, and I like the way you understand stuff. I think is you made a comment. So the first thing is like, oh, Hayden's here. So I took the gas money I got from my co-angler that day, and immediately bought you a shot. You ordered a shot and a stiff drink. I'm like, sweet, I'm buying this because I got to ask him about what I don't understand about Shasta, obviously, because you made one comment and my eyes roll back in my head, but you said, if you don't mind, you don't have to talk about it if you want, but the way that that spots move in a deep clear reservoir versus like largemouth, how the largemouth will warm up the rocks for spawn, but you said they move horizontally, and
Yeah,
like,
no, I don't mind talking about that for sure.
Yeah, that was cool though. But do you feel like you can explain it? But the question I have is that an all year thing for the way they move around?
Yeah, until a certain time of year, I think. Until they're really hardcore on the spawn where you can see them on the beds, Because these spotted bass, they start spawning right now. I mean, they're spawning. You just can't see them.
In 52
Weather-
degrees?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
I hope guys don't get mad at me about talking about this.
It just
no, keep
blows my
talking.
mind because
Keep
talking.
They start spawning early. I mean, whether it's in 40 feet, I've experienced it, 32 to 42 feet of water. A lot. And you'll drop down there in a whole mess of them where it's just spaghetti, And you'll drop down there and you'll pull up a 4-pounder and it's just piss and eggs, And they're spawning down there, believe it or not. I mean, they really are.
They don't need the sunshine like the smallmouth and the largemouth, you don't think? Or is the water so clear it allows it to go
No,
through?
dude, the spots, they're a different breed. I don't think they need it. They just get it done. I think they spawn a couple times a year. Sometimes. I mean, that's how they infiltrate these lakes so quick. They just when's the last time you caught a purebred smallmouth at Shasta? Bryant, you go there a lot. You've
Never.
caught small.
Like once
When's
a
the last time you
year.
caught one?
Once a
That's
year,
'cause
maybe.
When the smallmouth breed with the spotted bass, it creates a mule. And when they're a mule, that's what they call a horse that breeds with a donkey is a mule. It makes them infertile. They can't have babies. And when a smallmouth and a spotted bass mix, it makes them infertile and they can't have babies. That's why you don't see no more smallmouth.
No
Really?
kidding.
Yeah,
There used to be a lot of
that's a
them.
fact. Oh, yeah. Yes. Shasta used to be all largemouth and smallmouth. That's it.
No way. I bet you it wasn't the mecca for winter fishing that it is now.
No, it's
You know what I mean?
terrible. From what I've heard,
Yeah.
it used to be, brutal.
Smallmouth don't have that. The cold water metabolism, they're miserable. Even on the river, like, what's the river temp now, you think, Bo? Like Columbia.
Whoa, it's got to be cold now. I could tell you actually.
High 40s.
Oh, well, lower than that.
It's hard to look at you on the screen and realize that you're the same person as last week.
I was
Without the beard?
looking homeless, man. I thought I was going to be put in one of those camps in Portland. I mean, it was. Yeah, the wife
They don't
wasn't
put
happy.
you in those camps. You have to willingly go.
Well, my wife will put me
Everybody-
in one of those camps.
when he weighed in at
Mrs.
Shasta,
Boomer
everybody was standing by his boat, and everybody just gave him $1 on the way out.
I didn't need to place well to go home with a check.
Honey, I got $133.
Yeah,
Most of
somebody
it's
gave
in
you a couple
quarters,
extra
but
big
hey.
garbage bags.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Jeez.
The largemouth and the spotted bass, I think when those creeks get going, especially, I think those spots, they just go out and suspend, a largemouth, they want to, if they're wintering, they're going to be in, 55, 60 feet, maybe even deeper. Who knows how deep they go? That's like as deep as we probably fish for them, 60 feet. Because if you go any deeper, they usually die when you pull them up to the surface. They go up and down with the bank. I think the spots, they more go horizontal like this, If they want to go to the bank and feed, when they're done feeding, they just go back out, into like 120 feet of water, and they just sit out there like a trout and run bait around. And then when they want to come feed, they just slide back in. But the largemouth, they run the contour of the bank like this. If you're fishing a 30-degree bank, they want to go up and down with the land. But the spots, they just go through the water column like that. And you just got to hit them while when they're there. Or go LiveScope them, I guess.
So how do you explain, like, I feel like, I mean, if you listen to the weigh-ins on the second, third day, whatever, the last day of the BAM tour, everyone was dragging jigs. Like, every guy who weighed in a bag, that, Ed asked, how'd you catch them? And it was like, dragging a jig. So what draws them to go belly down?
I think there's just a lot of fish in Shasta, and I just think that probably that like, 25 to 40 foot range where there's a lot of fish in that range, but I don't think anyone ever really wins in that range. You know what I mean? The mass majority of the field didn't do very good. You know what I mean? They're weighing in like 9 to 11 pounds probably. And I just think they're catching 1 pounder after 1 pound. You know what I mean?
So you think the smaller fish group up down?
I think they group up in the zones, in the depth zones, yeah. I mean, if you go into the shallower zone, like I've heard Brian talk about it, all the big ones he's caught are all, 24 feet and shallower.
Every bit,
I think that is 100% true. Well, not 100%. I think if you go from that 40 zone to like the 65 zone, I think you can find big ones there too.
They're just harder I think they're harder to find out there.
They definitely are. And I think my Motherlode experience too is you can find largemouth out there that you're gonna pull up a big 8-pound deadhead that's just laying out there, just that eats a little worm or something. Yeah, and they're probably just so lethargic they don't even fight you. They just come to the boat, and then you gotta keep about halfway. You gotta keep it alive so you can weigh it in.
Get them about halfway to the boat, their air bladder expands, and they just float up from there.
Yeah, you definitely got to bring them in slow, but the deep fishing is, some guys haven't figured out. I used to do it. It's not really something I do very much anymore. I'm a bank beater for sure.
I love it. Have you adopted forward-facing sonar into your fishing, or are you still just bank beater till the wheel fall off?
I used the forward-facing sonar quite a bit when I first got it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that I really wish I could have got into using. I think fishing on the West Coast is just a little bit different than what you see on TV,
Totally agree.
I think it is just something a little bit different. I think those lakes are just so much bigger that those guys can find fish that have never felt that stuff before. And that was something that I really used to do when I was younger, probably from like age 16 to 20, on the Motherlode lakes. I had a couple years where me and my grandpa were just killing it. And we were fishing, probably 70 to 150 feet of water, suspended in the middle of nowhere, throwing A-rigs and dart heads, and that's pretty much it. I mean, just out in the middle of nowhere, but it took me weeks to figure it out. And everyone kind of they were like, what's he doing out here? And I would see people come and I'd shoot to the bank and act like I'm just fishing the bank. And
my motor broke down.
Now that people can see them, yeah, exactly. Now that people can see him, they're like, "Oh, no wonder he's out here." But I think it's made it a lot better for the bank beaters. Personally, I think that these fish get pressured a lot. Clear Lake is a different story.
Totally.
I mean, if you look at the videos where guys are using, LiveScope back east and stuff, they're pretty shallow lakes. It's hard to even see your little bait going down in 70 feet of water, 70, 80, 100 feet of water. You throw it out there 70 feet out, you can hardly see a fish. It's just different styles of fishing.
I like that we're going here because I've heard two different schools of thought on this, like what you're talking about, Hayden, and Ish has even told me, like, he believes that the West Coast bodies of water you don't get a great advantage from FFS for the most part.
Yeah.
And then I've heard the other school of thought that says that we just don't have a lot of those. We don't have as many of those anglers that were kind of raised on it, that are, that new generation of anglers that are coming in that have spent so much time on it that we don't know how good it could be with it. And I'm curious what you both, I'd like to hear some opposing viewpoints on that.
I think number one thing, and I'll let Brian go after me, but I'm going to say number one thing is just straight depth of the lake. I don't think those guys have lakes that are 500 feet deep. You know what I mean? What's the deepest part of Shasta? 500 and something?
600 now after the rain.
Yeah, 600. Yeah. I don't think, the deepest parts of their lakes are like 70 or 80. You know, I think it's a lot easier over there because they don't have the depth that we have. I've thought about it a lot, like where would I triangulate if I had the time to do it on my home lake, like Maloney's. If you could triangulate an area, and I'm not going to say where I would do it because I don't want nobody else to go do it. But if you could spend 2 or 3 days and just go LiveScope that stuff, and you throw your hog hunter mag at them all, you're going to catch some giants. But do we really have the time to go do it?
Yeah.
Half of them are big old trout.
That is, yeah. I still think there's a lot of untapped stuff out here as far as it goes. I still don't think a lot of people use it to its fullest potential out here. But it's also, like, I've tried to do a lot of what I do back east out here, and a lot of times it just doesn't work. Like, I've spent a lot of time out in the middle. Like, I go to Folsom a lot just to, practice. It's 20 minutes from the house. I can drop the trolling motor in. And I've trolling motored across from one side to the other, down the river channel and back.
It's a smaller type lake, too, over there.
Yeah, and it reminds me a lot. Like, it's still deep, but it's more like it's like a highland reservoir back, in the Ozarks or something like that. And man, I just don't see the fish out there. And I might be in the wrong areas or wrong time of year, but I don't see the fish out running around like pelagic fish. I don't think we have a lot of pelagic fish on the West Coast for whatever reason. I think they're more homebodies, they live on point, in structure, rock piles, stumps, stuff like that. I don't think there's a lot of fish that actually go out there and swim in most of our lakes. There are a few lakes where I've seen it where it is identical to what you see on TV, but it's not everywhere. And I think that's a big reason why LiveScope isn't such a player out here, is because it is or forward facing, it is a totally different type of fish out here for whatever reason.
Do you think it's a depth or a structure issue, or do you think it's a food issue?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see where Hayden's coming from with that for sure. I could totally see where that would be a player. And the weird thing about the forage thing is, like, even like you go to Table Rock or something and they LiveScope the crap out of them. They're constantly doing it. That's what always wins. That's what's winning right now. And they only have shad in there. They have the same shad that we have. They got the same largemouth, same smallmouth, same spotted bass that we have in here. But for some reason, forward-facing sonar hasn't. I don't know if it's not a player out here like it is back east, or it hasn't shown us that it's a player yet. And I'm going to keep trying. Like, that is. It's the angler that I have turned into. I used to be a bank beater. Like, it warms my heart, Hayden, to hear that you're still a bank beater. Like, I love that stuff, and I still love doing it. But, I'm going to try and figure it out here. I just think it's different for whatever reason, and I can't put my finger on why.
Yeah, it seems a little different. I mean, guys are definitely catching them out here. I just think it needs to be on it. We had a tournament a couple weeks ago at our Lake Tolek up here. And I knew, just seeing what guys are doing at Clear Lake, strolling with the LiveScope stuff.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to get one scoping. I went out for 2 days straight. I caught some fish, but I was not on nothing to go dedicate myself for a day to fish a tournament. we had 20 pounds. I thought that was a good chance of winning. We come in, I think, second place. We got second place with 20. First place had 27 strolling. And it was actually the Simpson college kids, the two twins. They've been coming up. And I just think, for me anyway, I started fishing when I was real young with my grandpa. I think I did my first team tournament with him when I was 8 years old. So I had a learning curve, that started from old school to now I'm teaching myself, the more modern stuff, the stuff that I do. And I'm not trying to talk about these kids or nothing, but their learning curve from what I know. And most, college anglers, high school anglers and stuff, their learning curve is all, how can I catch these fish that I can see on my screen? It's a completely different thing. I can't focus on my screen like that. I get tweaked out, dude. I get all friggin' jacked up. I get all spazzed out. I can't focus. I'm like, shit, why don't you fight? I get mad.
Yeah.
I just have to shut it off. I leave it in the truck, dude. I leave it in the truck. It gets me that spun out. And the funny thing is that it's right up my alley for how I kind of got on my own thing in high school where I was catching them out suspended, and it still happens on our Motherlode lakes, but you have to spend a lot of time. If we would have had LiveScope back in 2015, 16, 17, it would have been a mess, dude. It would have been an absolute mess. With the A-rig and stuff, it doesn't seem like that really happens very much anymore. But I think a lot of it's pressure because guys are just out there staring at them. They're like, oh, now we can see how those guys are doing it because they don't put in the time. They know where the fish are at. They know what guys are doing, and they just go stare at them. And I think a lot of it, pushes them off to the banks, and the guy that goes down the bank and flips a jig a lot of times is going to catch the bigger fish.
Yeah, I totally agree with pretty much everything you just said. It's really interesting to see the younger generation, and you're still really young, but it is really interesting to see the younger generation, how they, and for good reason, they put all their eggs in that basket, because it is such a you see it, especially back east. I see it all the time. It is a dominant piece of equipment. There's no doubt. And I've always been curious, and MLF is trying it right now with the for whatever they call it, their power hour, where they can have it for one period. But that learning curve is so quick with that screen.
Different.
Yeah, that you don't.
It's not easy though. It's not easy. I mean,
I'm not taking anything away from those guys. It is a true technique. It is a true, it's almost an art form, watching that fish on that screen and seeing its movements and getting it to bite. But
what's up, Jake?
Yeah,
when I first got LiveScope, I think I top 10 the first 3 tournaments on it. I mean, I was using it hard. I think the fish definitely react to it different now. A lot different. It's a lot more work. When it first came out, you throw at them, they ate it. Now they kind of, I don't know what it is. I think we just have more pressure. I don't know what it's like to go back east, so I can't really talk about it that much, but I know it's kind of funny for one, let's just say Clear Lake, they were catching them on that crunch minnow, right? On the Rapala. And they were catching them on it hard last year. And then all of a sudden, they just stop eating it. And now they want the Sakamata shad, and they want this, but it translates through all the lakes, and even those lakes aren't getting all the pressure.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point with that, and something that just kind of popped into my head. As far as the pressure goes for our lakes out here, they can be fished year round, and if you compare them to a lot of lakes back east, they are tiny little ponds. They're not the size of some creek
they're very
ponds
small.
in those lakes. Yeah, so I think you could be onto something with the fact that they're getting really smart to it really quick, because it's not hard to pan over for the however many anglers we have on the West Coast. Everybody has it. It is not hard for everybody to pan over a majority of the fish. Whereas if you go even to Table Rock, one of the best forward-facing lakes in the country, it's still producing them because it is such a monster lake.
Yeah. I would say the only lake that doesn't apply to what I'm talking about is probably Clear Lake. I mean, I think
Yeah. Clear Lake fish are built to eat.
a couple years ago they did that carp snag, and they put all the nets out for carp. You know how many 12-pound bass they caught in the middle of the lake?
Yes.
A lot.
A ton.
What are they doing out there? They're in cyberspace, out there in the mud, sucking carbon monoxide out of the volcanoes. And they're out there just eating hitch. I mean, guys are out there catching them right now because they're on. I mean, look at what John Pearl's been posting and stuff. I mean, these guys are catching them. If I had the time to go catch them, I'm sure I could, but you still have to put in the time. I mean, I've been up there a couple times and tried to go do the hover juggle stuff, and it's not easy. You catch a lot of crappie. The crappie love it.
The water was really low there one year. It was when I did the Wild West a couple of years ago, and I had a 360, but I don't think I was big on the scope. I had borrowed a boat for it, and if you found something that had no return, dead grass, and you just stayed in there long enough, a group of fish would come by it. I mean, like I was driving around out in the middle of nowhere, but I'm still like 6-8 feet of water throwing an A-rig, and I started just kind of, I don't remember what happened. I just floated off the spot I was on. And my co-angler throws out behind me and catches this freaking 4-pounder. And I'm like, what the heck? So I throw an A-rig in there and pull the whole school to me. And that was the pattern. Look for zero return on the 360. Like they float around, like you're saying, carbon monoxide, dead grass, whatever. They just, I couldn't figure it.
Yeah, they're just everywhere.
Yeah. But that's the kind of stuff like John Pearl and those guys get, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Lake's just that's just a different breed. And there's nothing that really compares to it in California. I mean, we have a lake here, Lake Tull, like I just talked about it, and I'm not scared to talk about it because it's already gotten blown up. I don't know if you guys know Mike Gilbert, and that dude already blew it up, but so everyone calls it miniature Clear Lake, and it is, but it's more of the rocks, the rock pile type of bite. It's not really go out there in the know nothing bays and find them chasing hitch. They don't really do that. It's more of a rock pile type of bite. But you can definitely scope them there because it's so small. Though you can cover the whole lake on your trolling motor in a day. Well, maybe not the whole lake, but the majority of the area of the lake, you can go out there and turn your trolling motor on 9 or 10 and cover it. Is that how guys do it back east, Brian? How high are guys running their trolling motors? Because that scares them too, right?
10. I run it on 10.
Good.
Yeah. No, I put it on. I backed it down to 9 this year, just so I quit hitting stuff and throwing myself out of the boat. But yeah, it is. I mean, at least the way I do it, it's always cover more ground than the next guy, and that's what a lot of guys do back. There's so many. It's really interesting, like how, before everybody would develop their little kind of the way they do things. You flip this way, I flip this way, you throw a crankbait this way, this guy throws it one way, this guy throws it the other. Even if it's the same bait, we all do it a little differently than everybody else. And forward-facing sonar is no different. There's a lot of guys that do it just completely different. There'll be a guy that, like, the fastest he goes is like 4 on his trolling motor. I turn my ghost up to 9, no matter what I do. And then there's a guy that, it's so interesting how everybody's kind of putting their little spin on it. But yeah, for the most part, everybody is pretty quick, for the most part, especially when you're looking for the pelagic fish. But I do think you touched on something, and you brought it up a couple times, and I'm wondering if it, came from your background, on the Delta, scaring the fish, running over them, getting too close to them, hanging off of them. Talk to me about how much people aren't aware of how they scare their fish away that they're fishing for.
Yeah, I don't. I'll just start off for one. I suck at the Delta. I'm not a very. Seriously, dude, that's definitely my Achilles heel. Which is surprising, because of my dad and stuff. But that's definitely my weakest spot for sure on the West Coast is probably the Delta. But I think a lot of it comes into just maybe just being me, and I like if I have my LiveScope running, and Jake has talked about this on the podcast, I can't translate my looking at the graph to my reeling and feeling the bait. I think a lot of it's I can't even put it into words, I just have to feel what I'm doing. It's almost like a sixth sense type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot too, I'm no like great swim bait fisherman or nothing, but that's what I like to, that's like a hobby. I catch fish on swim baits in tournaments pretty often. But I'm not going to be catching limits on it, But I think when it comes to throwing swim baits and stuff, I think it really does spook them, especially the LiveScope. If you turn that thing on and shut your garage door, tell me what you hear. You're going to hear ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
when May, June comes around, swim underneath your boat and put your head up to that thing. You'll have a headache for a week.
Yeah, I totally
will.
agree.
Yeah, I was at Lake Folsom when we were there for the Apex. Don't even want to talk about that. But so when we were there, I was sitting in a little creek channel, and I don't remember what creek channel it's called, but I had a whole bunch of fish up underneath me. I mean, a bunch of them. And you've noticed how they come up. They'll come up to your boat, and the smaller ones, they kind of want to come up and check it out. Dude, I had 4 largemouth about 6 inches long come up and die underneath my boat. And that's no joke, dude. They just come up and floated up and started shivering at the surface.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. And the water's like 47 degrees. I'm like, dude, I just fried them.
You didn't accidentally hook your trolling.
Wow.
Did you hook your trolling motor battery up to your LiveScope? Like, they only take 12 volts.
So they gave the electrolysis.
No, we were just talking about scoping, because I tried to watch. I mean, when I get time, I had like on the background, I had the BPT event on Conroe, and they're doing one period where you can have it and one where you can't. And after the first day, somebody posted the stats, like the top 5 guys, they had LiveScope on, they had 54 catches or something like that, and then the other 2 periods they had 3. And there was a lot of really dead airspace, like a dude just mindlessly casting, and they kept saying, well, that's just this lake, and I mean, like, yeah, it's just this lake, but if you flip that thing on, you're going to catch 60 more fish. You know what I mean? Like, let me say this really quick so I don't get fried. I'm grateful that there's leagues willing to test it. Like, we've got 3 versions now. We've got elites on the full boat, we've got a middle of the road, and then we've got an MPFL where they're going to do nothing. But I think it's hard as heck to sell live stream fishing right now. Like, it's a really tough product to put in front and say, hey, listen, want to watch people fish for 9 hours? You know what I mean? I think that live, when it first came out, was awesome, but I think it was just a lot of fishermen that watched it. So when you're trying to make it more cool for people that want to watch 9 hours of fishing, you're going to want them catching fish, right? So I think we're going to run into this, like, it's going to be a little bit weird. We're going to test the waters. And I think the elites made their decision and everybody else made their decision. But I know that I was watching it, like, I'm kind of used to you guys catching more fish than you're catching. You know what I mean? Like, do you guys remember when you mindlessly just threw a rattle trap over grass? Like, then the next period you flip your LiveScope on and go catch 27. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely a thing. Like, it was definitely noticeable.
I'm just curious because I didn't get a chance to watch it. Did they change how they fished when they weren't using the LiveScope, or were they just kind of okay? So they weren't sticking around the fish they found.
No, they went to bait.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, like
at least the guys I watch.
Yeah, Jacob Wheeler, I watched him for a little bit. You're talking about a guy that's probably caught 1.2 trillion fish in his career, like a million. He gets excited when he catches them. But he was in one of his periods where he couldn't use LiveScope, and he catches one on a rattle trap, and it's kind of a rat. He's like, that's it. That's what you got to do. He's all excited. You just got to change your angle. I'm like, yeah, we used to get excited about angles before we knew where they were at and just taught him. You know what I mean? Like, I got it. And he's like, oh man, the camera when everybody was so excited. He's catching fish without forward imaging. I remember thinking, like, he'd have caught every one of those 20 minutes before he changed his angle. You know what I mean? It's just information for sure.
I think now that you mentioned that, I think that's definitely another thing about our lakes, especially like the Motherlode Lake. I would consider Shasta like is it a Motherlode Lake? What would you call it? I mean,
it's a Highland.
Highland,
you know, reservoir.
It's got steep banks, right? So you turn on your LiveScope, you can't see no shallower than 18 feet. I mean, it just turns into a blur because the banks are too steep. And maybe I'm not running it right. But when you're fishing shallow water like this, you can see that stuff. When you're fishing a bluffer type bank, you know, that 30-degree plus angle bank, you can't see nothing. It just turns into a blur.
100%.
And I think if you're fishing that depth zone, you just need to shut that stuff off. Me personally.
I think that there is a way to see those depth ranges, but I don't think anybody in this podcast is going to teach you.
Yeah, no, I know.
Bryant is the one that taught me. It's just the way that you have to be perpendicular to the.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta. I don't know. Bryant will be mad. Should I not give your secret away, Bryant?
Why not? That's what you do. It's like
yeah.
We're going to start a segment called Bryant's Secret of the Episode.
Yeah.
And you're just going to blow one more of his
It's going to be it's going to be a really short segment because I only got about 3.
No, you just get the boat moving and you got to turn your trolling motor perpendicular, and it's not efficient, but it's enough. You know what I mean?
No, it's a terrible way to fish.
Yeah. The one thing about Shasta is if you get in an area that's good, like I like to burn bank and move, and I kind of noticed that the guys that did better than I did really stuck out an area that had the better bite. So maybe that if you're fishing it slower, it's not so. Maybe you could scope around, or maybe you just get the bite sticking it out, being there. You know what I mean?
But I think that's the cool part about Shasta too is, and you know, a lot of our lakes, and it touches on a lot what Hayden's been saying is you don't need it. You can still compete without it. Whether that changes in a few years, I'm not sure. But as far as it goes right now, you can definitely, there's no doubt it'll help you catch more fish. I mean, I can catch way more fish with my active target because I have it. But the West Coast, you can still compete without it. So it's a pretty cool dynamic that we have out here.
So what about the river? I mean, so Brian, you weren't up there last year, but both Hayden and Jake, you both top 10'd. I think I came in 11th or 12th. How much of that success was attributed to forward-facing sonar?
Hayden didn't have his graphs on his boat. I asked him if they broke.
Zero.
Awesome.
I had my graphs off because my graphs are so stripped. My graphs are so stripped out, I'd lose them.
Right. I don't know if you remember on the first day, Hayden, but you came up where I was fishing and you were like, hey, could I fish inside of you?
Yeah.
And
I remember.
Yeah, and I was fishing this spot outside of Grassline, and I was thinking, I don't know why the hell he wants to go fishing there, because it was just this like heavy weeded, inside Grassline area, and I proceeded to sit there and watch you put a clinic on 30
I only
yards
caught
in
a
front of me.
couple. I left them. I just marked them.
Where
The
exactly was
only
this?
reason I caught any. This
I'll
is
tell you
true.
later,
Yeah,
Jake.
I caught like a 4-pounder, and
did.
I was like,
And-
okay, I'm done. I've got 20 pounds.
Yeah, and I'm sitting
I
out
had
there
like
going,
high 19s, and I just grabbed my rod and I'm just going around marking 5-pounders. Ding, ding, marking them. And here comes
you
Mark
marking 'em?
on the camera. I was marking
his
them
brain.
on my GPS, not with LiveScope, just on normal, map, marking the holes in the grass.
And
And
I don't know if you remember, because you left, and I don't remember what I asked you, but I made a comment to like watching you fish, and you were like, because Jake, you can maybe speak differently to this, but a lot of the local guys up here, you don't see people fishing in the river grass. Everyone's positioning outside the grass lines and fishing on
they're
the
fishing
grass lines.
the current goes by the grass, right?
And you literally had your boat in there, and you were, I think you were fishing something like, a fluke or some small bait fish pattern on the top, and then you were flipping into holes. And I think you actually said to me, you said it felt very Delta-like to you, the way you were, doing it with a smaller presentation. And it was, again, back to my point and my question, you didn't have a forward-facing sonar on.
you can't
Wow.
see. If you
Yeah.
had it on, you can't.
You wouldn't see it anyway.
No,
Yeah.
and you can see it's like 3 feet deep. Yeah, you can see them with your eyes.
But you scoped
That's
most
what I
of that
mean.
tournament, right, Jake?
The whole thing, 118% of that tournament.
But the second day of that tournament, they brought the water up hella.
They did.
And they brought it up, and the fish that you were fishing for moved in to the grass and
I
are,
believe it.
scrounging around in there looking for stuff. I wish they'd have kept the water up. But they dropped it back.
Right down. Well, that time of year though, when they blow the water through like that, because there's still smelt in the system, it also makes the offshore fish go crazy. You know what I mean? So it's like a catch-all. Like you can catch them up. You can catch them anywhere. It's like they keep the water up and push it like that. Everything eats. The ones that want to be in the grass, the ones that want to be out in the current. Everybody goes to luncheon. And the cool thing about that is when they bring the water up like that, the smelt comes up with it. It's in the upper part of the water column. And so that second day was absolute. I mean, it's fun to fish in the grass. It's 10 times more fun to be floating out in the middle of the river and watch the surface erupt when they're chasing and they're going crazy and you're just one after another. Like that's hard too. So that's the funny thing is not all big fish do that. For some reason, salmon smelt tend to, with the higher currents, push up. And so everything comes up. The whole lake comes up, and it's super fun. But other bait fish that I've seen, especially down there, like the shad and stuff, they don't do that. Kind of stay lower in the water column. So, and that's only a time of year thing. I think guys are going to get there this next year. And we're later in the year, and the salmon smelt have kind of gone back through. It's going to look like a way different river.
Gone.
The Pro-Am will have it.
Pro-Am will have probably the tail end of it. Yeah.
Yep.
Depends
Absolutely.
on the heat. Hayden and I talked today.
That's true.
I mean, we're having, like he said, what did you say was blooming, Hayden?
The China lilies up here.
Are you already?
Yeah, they were blooming like 3 weeks ago in Angel's Camp. Yeah, but they might freeze. I don't know. We're seeing some weird stuff up here, dude.
I talked to a buddy down there. Said the Pedro's like in the mid-50s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the lakes, they haven't dropped to the winter temps that we usually get. Not even close. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. I mean, you're seeing the carp are spawning right now. Seriously. I mean, you go up into bays and carp are running themselves up on the bank trying to get their eggs out of them.
Wow. Yeah. So, Hayden, are you ready for some more questions? Have we worn you out yet?
Sure. No.
So, obviously you came up in a fishing family, so you got trained by some of the you got a pretty good training. You've been doing it for a long time, but you proclaim that you're kind of more of a finesse fisherman, right? You don't like the Delta. Is that just because is that because the Delta has changed, or why do you think you're more of a finesse fisherman? Because I'll preface this because I saw you the first day in Shasta, and you had an egg beater in your hand, and I'm like, do you even know how to use one of those? And you're like, yeah, I use it all the time. And then I saw your deck, and it's covered with spinning rods. Like,
Yeah, no, I can definitely throw a spinning rod. I saw Jake, I was like, oh, I'm not doing that good. I had like 14 pounds in the boat probably already. Yeah, today's no, I'm just
I thought I was doing good because I had
about 12 and a half.
Yeah, I had my whole weight when I saw you, but I caught everything I caught early. I caught on a jerk bait, so I had like 11 and some odd pounds. I don't think I culled up maybe but one time after I saw you, and I thought I was doing all right, but I didn't weigh into my first day fish. I just caught them, clubbed them, threw them in like carp fishermen.
Yeah, I think I just think I haven't spent that much time on the Delta. I mean, you look at the standings on, when we have pro-ams there and stuff. Who knows what we're gonna do there now with all the muscle stuff.
And the water, right? Isn't that going to be a big deal? Aren't they going to start moving the water like it's happening? Like the tunnels are going for sure?
I don't know. I don't know nothing about that. But
kind of sounds like in the water wars.
Yeah, they might. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with the tunnels, but I wouldn't doubt if they're doing something crazy. It is California. But I think the Delta just takes a lot of time. You got to spend a lot of time there.
Your dad didn't give you any tips to get you started off. I mean, he is arguably one of the best Delta fishermen that ever fished that place. Do you just prefer finesse fishing, or?
No, I love to power fish. I mean, that's
okay.
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at. If you put me on a power fishery, I can power fish. If you put me somewhere I can finesse fish, I can finesse fish. The Delta, I think just with the tides is just something a little bit different. I can catch them for one day. To catch them 2 days in a row is just a different story. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I think I had that what was it called a couple years ago, like the shootout or something. BassCast shootout, or not BassCast.
No, Western Bass.
Yeah, the one that Ken won. It was like $100,000 or something. I mean, the first day I whacked them. I showed up to the boat launch. I was like 15 minutes late. I'm pretty sure they were calling my name on the microphone when I was trying to launch my boat. Shoot off, hung over as a goat, dude. Like I was up till 2-3 in the morning. Show up on my first spot. My marshal's like, "Are you all right, dude?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." Catch a 7-pounder on like my third cast. Hangover gone. I'm like, cool.
Amazing.
Next thing you know, I got like 24 pounds in the boat. I'm in like third. Next day, I go back through the same stuff. Can't even get a bite, dude. Go to my backup water. It ain't working. That's just a different place. I don't know.
Tough. I'm definitely
a power fisherman though at heart. Like, even when I do finesse fish, I'm not a finesse fisherman. It's kind of weird to explain, but I power fish a worm. Like I don't leave it in there very long.
I get it. I get it.
I don't leave it in there very long. I shake it a couple times. I reel it in, throw it at the next spot. I'm not dragging behind the boat or nothing. I will drag sometimes if I'm very desperate, but most of the time I would say I'm more of a target fisherman.
I would say
on
that
a rod or a swim bait on a bait caster.
I will say, if there's one, say you just don't like forward imaging, you just can't stand it. There is one thing that it has taken out of that I don't feel like I ever have to do again, and that's drag. Like, Columbia River used to be the dragon capital of the United States. Like, get up with the current, just out the back with ounce and a half, and start up with a Pall Mall. And once you get through the pack, reel it back up and back up to the top of the drift. You know what I mean? Like bust out another one from the carton. But I feel like you don't have to do that with forward imaging anymore. But I have an observation about the Delta, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but there's two really good California guys on this podcast. I feel like the Delta is so complex. To be good at it, to be really good at the Delta, you give up being, say, pretty good everywhere else. Like it takes so much time, and unless you don't have a job or nothing else to do and just want to do it, you have to be so good at the Delta that you can't be as well-rounded other places because I think you got to just be there, watch it change, unless you got insider information. But Delta guys don't want to leave the Delta, and a lot of guys get mad, but I don't blame them. If you want to be good there.
Yep.
Yeah. If you want to be good, you have to go back and forth.
They get big, they get big money tournaments there every year. So why not stay and figure it out?
Sure.
And my dad was the same way. When he won those Bassmasters, dude, he was there all the time. He wasn't fishing anywhere else. I mean, he was a little bit, but for the most part, he was going out and, catching 20 to 25 pounds on his junk water. From what I've been told, I don't know. I worked there.
Was it easier, do you think, back then than it is now with all the changes to the Delta, the steel, the whatever, whatever issue 100%. You want to talk about? Oh, okay.
100%. I mean, you could say, I might just not be able to catch his fish, but
they're not there.
I think it's definitely different. Definitely a lot different. I mean, from what he's told me, the toolies have got way shrunk back. The toolies, just say disappointment, white slough. The toolies used to grow out into, 3 to 5 feet of water. Now the toolies are in 1.5 feet on low tide. They're dry. They're in this much water. That's just one thing. I mean, you could get, spray pellets, whatever. They say it only kills certain stuff, but it kills everything.
Yeah, I can't see how it would delineate that much with that volume of it going in the water column. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you were me, for example, and you've watched the Bassmasters with my dad, and you saw the spots he was fishing, and then you went back and you fished the same exact spot and watched that YouTube video right there on that spot, you're like, this ain't the same spot. But it is, unless he's lying to me. He's like, I'm not even going to tell you.
Once a bass fisherman, always a bass fisherman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually I got a pretty cool one. I actually drew your dad in an FLW. I think it was the second one I've ever fit from the back of the boat. I was 16 years old, and that was one of the coolest experiences. It was one of those ones where I just watched him fish because it was May. He was flipping and throwing a square bill, and he was just he was a machine. It was incredible. It was incredible to watch. But yeah, that was pretty cool to get to draw him on the Delta when he's doing his thing, and just to see how he picked that place apart. And he never missed. Like, his mechanics were incredible. When he got bit, it came in the boat. I think I netted 24 pounds for him that day. That was pretty cool to watch him fish like that.
Yeah, he's definitely a hard guy to fish against, especially at the Delta. I've been there with him a couple. I've been there, I think, when I was young, like 11, 12, 13 years old, and I'd go down there pre-fishing for FLWs. And we go for 3-4 days straight, and it come the fourth day, I'm like, dude, just let me catch a fish. Like, you've got like 30. Just let me catch one.
Just let me feel a bite.
He's that type of guy, dude. I'm his kid, and he's like, yeah, he's just 8-pounder. I'm like, just let me try. Tell me where to flip it. And then This is a true story, dude. We went for 4 days straight, and I stuck it out. I went 3 days without catching a fish, and I told him exactly what I just said. I'm like, come on, just let me catch one. He's like, okay, throw it right there. I throw my frog up there on the mat. Poof, 4-pounder, eats it, catch it. I'm like, you waited 4 days to let me catch one of them.
I love you, Dad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pop. Appreciate it.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
That's definitely how the Delta is, though. You got to land it right there. If you miss
yeah.
if you miss by this much, you're not gonna catch them. I mean, they want it right on top of their head a lot of time.
Yeah, that was a super cool, really big learning experience for me, watching how precise he was with everything. It was really cool.
He's a really good finesse fisherman too. I mean, he's he likes to flip and punch. Like say, look at Ken Ma. When he's punching and flipping, he's a heavyweight guy. He likes to fish. His lightweight's like a 3/4. My dad, he'll venture into he'll flip 1/8 ounce, 3/16 quarter, stuff like that, and that'll get you those bites sometimes.
Shake it through, look for the holes and just be real precise.
Very precise, but a lot of it's really so precise. The average fisherman cannot do it. Even some of the top pros. I mean, you can't land it. I mean, putting it in a beer can size top, dropping it right there, because you can't flip a 1/4 ounce through stuff. It's got to hit the clear right in that little hole.
Right. With
but
momentum,
if you take
right?
the time to do it, no, usually it's open pot, a little flip through there, But that's changed a lot. I mean, there's way more cover now.
Yeah. Well, I know we're only going there once this year, and it doesn't bother me. So, but I will tell you this story. I talked to Bobby Barrick about
That makes two of us.
Bobby Barrick. I got to meet Bobby Barrick because we stayed with him when we were in Texas, and he started talking about the Delta one time. So I asked him 1 or 2 questions, and I almost he said 42 to 48 degree banks with something. He started going on, and I'm like, okay. And when he was all done with this intense detail and all, how detail oriented he is, I said, sweet, I'll fish riprap then. Thanks. What am I going to do with that? He's talking about
Bring your
levels of
smart
stuff
level. You can buy a
about?
smart level for a couple grand and go put it on the bank, and it'll tell you how steep it is.
Oh my God. He
That
does
is-
do. He
that
talks
is
to
how
percentage.
detailed. That is how detailed guys on the Delta are, though. It is.
Yeah.
It's a total different. You have a totally different mindset when you talking to guys who grew up on the Delta and who are some of the best on the Delta. They're. It's not like we're on Shasta and I'm just gonna throw my Nico rig over this point. No, they're going to drop it, like Hayden says, into a beer can size hole. And if it doesn't get there, they're not getting that bite. But they have it dialed in that much.
Would you say it's one of the toughest fisheries in the country?
Yes.
Well, let's not say tough.
Ask Brian.
One of the most meticulous fisheries in the country.
Toughest. No, you're right the first time.
It is, and to preface this, I haven't fished there in probably 2 or 3 years, so I haven't seen how it's changed, but it was always one of the toughest ones to win on, because you're competing against guys who just know that place. They know where to be, when to be there. And I grew up fishing the Delta. I fished the Delta a lot. It's not like I don't know the place, but the gap between a guy that fishes there a lot and a guy who only fishes there is so far. It's so much further away than a guy going to a lake who's just, a good angler going to a lake competing against a local. Yeah, you have a shot. When you go to the Delta and you're a good angler, your percentage is like the gap is so far away. So it's not a tough place to fish because it's still really good. You know, you can still catch them there, but it is tough to compete there for the win.
Have you ever won there?
I won a couple team tournament stuff there, but never anything major.
The biggest lie I was ever told, it was I was fishing my first Wild West Pro-Ams, and I'd never fished anything really in California. I talked to a buddy who'd spent a lot of time down there, and he was like, "Oh, well, you're a Columbia River fisherman. You're going to be fine." And I was like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, the biggest lie I'd ever been told. And I remember my first day of practice, and I called him and I go, "What in the hell did you mean?" He goes, "Well, it's big, like the Columbia." And I'm like, "The Columbia is a freaking creek compared to this thing. Like, it's not even in the same classification."
Yeah.
So
The only two things that has in common, the two places have in common, is the water is wet and there's some rock.
And there's rock.
Oh, there's three. The water moves too.
Yeah. And that's it.
right.
I don't even think it's got the same grass.
Yeah.
Right. It's, that's
biggest
the
lie I've
only
been
two
told.
things. Yeah. I got it. You know, I'm an entrepreneur, fellas, and I got a sweet idea for the Delta, how we can make a little money. And we'll start an app that tracks seal sightings. So when you see one, you're like, beep, you hit it, you put it in there. So we'll sell subscriptions to the seal sightings app. So that when you look on there and you see like a density of seal sightings, everybody will go fish somewhere else, right? I mean, that could be a thing. Keep you away from the seals at a minimum. Or the seal, the only thing we'll pay all the money to have it developed and find out they're everywhere. Like, all right, everybody, log in your seal sightings. Yeah, it'll be everywhere.
They are
just
everywhere.
thinking, man.
Yeah.
You know, one time I actually fished a tournament chasing seals around. Seriously. Like,
Oh, I gotta hear that.
Intentionally?
Do you guys hunt a lot? Yeah. No, like, and I did pretty good.
I gotta hear it.
I did good. I didn't win or nothing, but I think I was like, I know after the first day I did pretty good. I had like a 9 or something. I don't think I did that good after the second day.
What was
But
your
like
biggest
mountain
seal?
lions, right? They hunt deer. Oh, I shot a couple that. Oh no, don't put that on the. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I didn't
no.
shoot no seals.
I'm just kidding. We're all going to jail.
Yeah. Maybe don't put that on the podcast.
Well, this was a fun podcast, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we're all going to federal prison now. Hayden shot a steal. But so mountain lions, if you're seeing mountain lions in your area, that means there's a high population of deer, right? And so during the spawn, the easiest thing for a sea lion to pick out is a bass on a bed or underneath the mats. They can swim like 40 miles an hour, a sea lion. So they'll come underneath the mats, push them out of the mats, and then chase them out in open water, and they can't get them. But the only reason they are there is because there's high populations of fish, So if you're around the sea lions, then you're around high population of bass. It actually...
So the app is a good idea then, right?
Right.
Go both ways.
It's a pretty good idea, yeah. Go to Mildred and Mandeville. You're going to find a bunch of them.
The new fish finder.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
however you use the information, it's up to you.
It's a real thing. Like in April when they're spawning hard and you see the sea lions and they're swimming through the tules. When they're swimming through the tules chasing them off, they're not going to bite. But you go back through that area and you go look for bedfish, you're going to see big ones on beds if they get away, and then you can catch them.
Crazy.
We'll call it.
I have a sea lion story.
Oh boy,
it's not as crazy as that. I was fishing a tournament. Probably for, I don't know. I don't know when it was, but it was a while ago. And I started in Frank's in my primary spot. And like 10 minutes into it, a freaking seal comes by. And I'm not on the seal pattern that Hayden's on. So I run. And I run 10 minutes down the river. Start fishing for like a half hour. Another sea lion shows up. Okay, we're out of here. I ran for 5 hours of my tournament trying to find some banks that didn't have sea lions on them. And finally, I got to a bank that I really wanted to fish. And of course, a sea lion showed up. And I said, screw you. I'm fishing this bank. I want to fish this bank. And up until that point, I was always about, I got to get away from the sea lion. Got to get away from the sea lion. It spooks the fish. They're on guard. They're not going to bite, blah, blah, blah. Well, with a sea lion 20 feet from my boat, I catch an 8 3/4. And 2 minutes later, my co-angler caught a 9 1/2 with the sea lion. Literally, like I could poke it with the rod tip. It was so close, just running down this grass.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
It's because the sea lions are where the population of fish are. That's
it all makes sense.
We're starting the app. We're starting the app. One of our number one sponsors will be Chevron, right? For all the gas you're going to burn chasing seal sightings. All right, I'll get the business plan written up, Bo. I'm on it.
That's fine. Yeah.
So how far are we in? Because I got Pedro questions for Mr. Motherlode here. I don't have a clock. I'm using my phone. So Pedro's next. Bam goes there for the Pro-Am. And then the Pro Tour, which I think is end of March. We were talking before we got on camera, Hayden and I, and he was talking about how he liked the idea of not having that Pro-Am right before, kind of like we did with the Columbia River, because guys will go fish the Pro-Am. But you guys, there's a group of you guys, obviously the Angels Camp group, that would have loved if we never got to fish there with our long off limits for the Pro Tour, because you guys would kind of have a shot at really dominating, because they're not everywhere is kind of what you said. But do you really think guys showing up blind to the Pedro Pro Tour are going to struggle to kind of find what to do? Or are they going to just kind of, I'm kind of good at Shasta, I'm going to fit right in? Or how do you feel about that? Do you think guys should be practicing? It's going to be tough? Or
I think if you asked that question a few years ago, it'd have probably been, maybe go practice. But now I think the population of fish have gotten a lot bigger. Like the spotted bass have gotten a lot more in the lake. You can find a lot of nice spotted bass in Pedro where, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, you're, largemouth dominant. I think it's going to take a mixed bag, probably. Maybe, for the Super 60, the weight goes to 0 the third day. It might take a full bag of largemouth to win. But I think it's going to be a mixed bag, probably. Unless somebody really blows them out of the water, which it could happen. I mean, Pedro has the potential to throw those, 30 to 33 pound bags at you for sure.
Holy cow.
So without giving up anything good, because I'm sure you're going to be fishing both of those, like what can guys expect out of the Pro-Am and then out of the Super 60 as far as where the fish are going to be that time of year? I know that place can be crazy because it could snow or it could be 80 degrees. But kind of give the guys listening a little insight on what to expect showing up for that tournament.
I think the Pro-Am and the Super 60 are going to be two different events for sure. I think the Pro-Am is going to be very much pre-spawn. You're going to see guys catching them shallow. You're going to see guys catch them, all the way out to deep water, whether it's, the 50 to 70 zone. You can get on them out there. And come the third weekend of March, if the weather stays like this, I mean, it was blowing 40 miles an hour today. Wow. So what's it, the 2nd of February or 3rd? It was blowing 40 miles an hour today, and it was 68 degrees.
Whoa.
I mean, if it stays like this, we're going to be bed fishing. We're going to be throwing Cincos and stuff.
Sweet.
But I mean, there's always
with my bifocals.
Yeah.
I can't wait for another bed fishing tournament. Sweet.
Yeah, which I don't know. I mean, the first wave might come in. The big ones are going to want to move up early. I think they might already be doing it. I think they might already be moving up there. But I don't know. We're just going to have to see.
What would happen if the next 3 weeks it gets cold and winter shows up to California like it kind of just showed up to the Northwest? Because we had a mild winter and now it's here. Like it's cold.
Yes, it
snowing.
is. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
It'll definitely push them back for sure. But I don't know if that's going to happen here, dude. We've had 2 good winters in a row, and we live in California. When's the last time we had 2 or 3 good winters in a row? We're due. We're due for another drought, dude. Like all of our lakes have been full for 2 years. I don't know.
We're spoiled.
They need, yeah, that's spoiled. 2 years. They're gonna this summer. They're gonna go down about 100 feet. You watch.
But
we
said
had a
that
good
Pedro's
spawn.
low, right?
It is low, which is a little weird. I don't know why, but it is a little. It's lower than Maloney's, which is very uncommon. Very uncommon. I think Pedro's about 60 feet down or something. But I think
mainly the water's used for irrigation, right?
Yeah, Pedro, I mean, I think it is. I don't know. Maloney's is. It all goes to Modesto and Escalon and stuff.
I'm pretty sure Pedro is too. And I'm wondering, maybe because it's warmer, if they've just been having to draw from it more.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Usually they hold Pedro way better than Maloney's, which it's a different owner. I mean, that's why they don't have the mussel shut down and stuff.
Yeah, it's what is it? The Tolek Irrigation District or something like that? I can't remember.
No,
Tuolumne.
Tuolumne, that's it. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what they use it for. It might be drinking water. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to sound stupid, but they might. I don't know what they use it for. I know Maloney's goes to Modesto and Escalon for, almonds. But
which one's your favorite?
Pedro, for sure.
Really?
Fun
I didn't
fishing.
expect that.
It depends. Oh yeah. Pedro's pretty fun. I fished way more tournaments there. I've only fished a handful of tournaments in Maloney's. It's hard to get permits there, even before this shutdown. I mean, it's been hard to fish tournaments there. I've probably fished a handful there. I like to go fun fishing there. But Pedro, I've caught way more checks at Pedro than Maloney's. That's for sure.
Do you fish McClure a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, McClure and Pedro, that's where all of our tournaments are.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know what it is with Maloney's. They're just difficult with everything. Everything.
Yeah,
they're going to be shut forever.
We'll never irrigation.
Yeah, it's the feds. We'll never have another tournament at Maloney's, I don't think.
Really?
I think
that's horrible.
Yeah, I think it's done.
That is horrible.
I mean, at the same time, for me, like yesterday, I went and bought a little $5,000 bass tracker, and I'm just gonna fish Maloney's out of that. It'll probably be a good thing, really. I mean, I went out today because it was raining and blowing, and we didn't have no work. I was the only bass boat on the water. I mean, there was 4-footers out there, but we didn't catch nothing. But I know they're out there. They're there.
Does the wind affect those lakes pretty heavily as far as
when it blows as hard as it did today? Today was weird. The weather guy's been right on the wind this year. He hasn't been right on the rain. They said it was supposed to rain for a week. It hasn't rained at all. Sure was windy though.
Interesting.
Yeah.
California's
got a wind
house too. Holy crap. Yeah. Yeah, it has been really windy early and interesting.
I think the Pro-Am at Pedro it'll take at least, I mean, it should take, the way it's been fishing this year, it's going to take 18 pounds a day, probably 16 to 18 would be low. I'd say it could take anywhere from 20 to 22 a day to win.
So
They
winners
don't
going over
reset the
60
weights on
pounds.
day 3
Wow.
either. Not the Pro-Am.
No. So
No.
you need
No,
60
it's
pounds
Pro
to take
Tour.
it.
Yeah, the Super 60 one, that one could be different because, you know, you could go out and catch whatever it is to make keepers. If the bite's good, you might be looking to make the top 5, maybe, I don't know, 16, 17, 14 inches a day might make it. It depends on the weather. If we have a storm come through and we're day after the storm, me and Jake were talking about this earlier, and we have that bluebird north wind day where it's cold after a storm, it can be tough to get bit. But if we have a good day, it could, you know, there's a lot of healthy fish in that lake, a lot. But if you go and catch your limit and get your keepers, you know, anybody can win. That's the point of that format. But the Pro-Am is gonna be a lot higher weight probably.
I wonder
would
if that
think.
one's gonna. I wonder if he's. I was thinking about that yesterday. I wonder if we need to get signed up if he's gonna hit the 100 boat count on that. Because he said he's.
Maybe, I'd be
limiting it.
happy to get 70. I'd think, I don't know. I would think maybe 70, 80. It's probably what we get. I hope we
Is it
get 100.
Is it fish small with that many people? Like, is it big enough?
Yeah.
Can it?
Yeah, it'll fish smaller and smaller the more boats we get. For sure. But
I can't remember how.
we had a 190 boat Wild West team tournament. Christian Ostrander won it. And it was packed. I mean, you couldn't even move.
Oh, it was a
with
zoo. I remember that one.
It was just a
You
zoo,
picked your
dude.
point for the day, and that was it.
And you couldn't move. You couldn't move. I remember me and Christian, we started right next to each other, and he made the right adjustment and landed on the fish, and I just had to sit there and just wait while I watched him whack him. And thankfully, I had a late boat number, and I went out to a different point, and I just went around. We had like 30 minutes left, and I just went around on my 2D graph and was just dropping on every fish I saw with like a 3/8 drop shot weight. And thankfully, I culled every fish we had. I think we got 6.
Wow.
But man, with that many boats, we took a lot of fish back to the boat launch. And ever since then, it's kind of fished a lot different. Same thing happened when we went to Maloney's for those 2 Pro-Ams. Our lakes don't take a lot of pressure very well. Doesn't seem
You
like.
think it moves them around better? Like I don't think California is great for released fish. Like when we went back to the East Coast, released fish was a big deal. Like you paid attention to it. I don't think I've ever made that work here. Bryant, have you?
I mean, Clear Lake, yeah. Clear Lake's
I can see that.
you can still catch them everywhere, but if you notice, well, I guess you didn't fish it. When they had tournaments out of Canocti Harbor and out of Redbud more often, and it wasn't just the north end, those fish were a lot more spread out because you get one tournament that launched out of the casino, one that launched out of the harbor, and then one that launched out of Redbud. But after the harbor shut down and everybody started going to the casino, you definitely noticed the north end was more dominant, and especially in the corner. You know, it was the swim bait corner stocking program. It had been that way, and it's been that way for a while. It's not that you can't compete anywhere else. It's just that's probably one of the highest population density areas in the lake. But besides that, like our lakes, we have so many fish in them. Like our fishing is so good that you don't need to rely on release fish a lot of times. It's not like going to the Arkansas River where day one everybody's, you know, running 60 miles down to Kerr and bringing all their fish back. And then day 2, literally boats 1 to 75 are within eyesight of the ramp. That just doesn't happen out here. And you just don't need to do that.
Yeah. The biggest thing on that in that Arkansas Open we did was leaving a spy out to find out where the release boat stopped. Like, how far down did he go?
Yeah. Oh,
And it's not illegal. That information was expensive. Like, he went down exactly 182 yards, just south of the green hole. That's right. Starting spot was there. I missed that.
Yeah,
release
you
boat
and me were
area,
the last boats out the first day, and then we got the primo spots. But this is the one tournament where they didn't just come out of the harbor there and dump them. They went down the river, freaking 100 a mile. So we had the.
If I remember correctly,
3 years before
it was
that.
I left you at the ramp to watch the release boat, and you left because you got hungry or something, and so you screwed us. You drew the short straw.
That sounds about right.
You probably smelled like some hot dogs, and I'm like, "Where'd the release boat go?" And you're like, "I don't know."
Read the shirt. I'm hungry. One hungry angler, me.
Jake, you screwed yourself by trusting him.
If food's involved, it's up.
Yeah, you trusted him to not. He smelled that better cheddar across the parking lot, and he was gone.
That's right,
100%.
You see where the release boat? Where'd it go?
I
don't know.
Yeah,
hot dogs are delicious though.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, what's that mustard on the side of your face?
Don't worry about that.
Oh, I don't miss that
good one.
Some of those places over there, like, I hit everything in the lake 3 times. Like, I hit so many stumps and deadheads. Yeah. And, like, I think people think it's scary to hit something in the water, but hit a cut-off tree, like, halfway into Kerr in the middle of nowhere that's about a foot underwater with your outboard going 35. That's about the most miserable sounding, scariest thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hit 3 of them.
Butt-puckering good time.
Oh, yeah. I got a good story. I actually had a guy show me how to cut this corner, and Brandon was running all the way to the bottom of Kerr. And Brandon goes, "Hey, somebody told you the route through this corner." I said, "Yeah, it's kind of right through here." And I kind of like just pointed at a map. And so we were all camping together, and I get back to the camper, and Tiffany was there, and she's like, and I'm like, "Where's Brandon? I thought it was his turn to cook." And she's like, "Oh, he's not happy with you." So I called him on the phone, and he had Kyle with him, and I sent him through Sherwood Forest. Like, he said it took him an hour and a half to idle to water where they weren't up and down. And he was so mad. And he sent me a screenshot picture. He said, "See this low water image with all these little white dots?" I said, "Yeah, that's interesting." He goes, "That trains." Well, Kyle thought they weren't going to make it back. Like, they didn't have a spare prop. They just idled up over one tree and down through another one, but they were a mile offshore. It's crazy.
I'm curious. I think it'd be neat for any co-anglers that are listening in, because I always joke that Shasta's the co-anglers. Like, how does Don Pedro set up for guys fishing off the back of the boat for this product?
I think it's pretty good. I think it'll be pretty good. Yeah. It's a big warmer lake. I mean, it's definitely a drop shot lake, definitely a dragon lake. You know, guys might get a little caught up on throwing the swim baits and the reaction style baits, but I think for a co-angler, just dragging behind the boat is probably the best thing you can do to catch fish. And you're going to catch a solid limit too. I mean, Pedro is fishing very healthy right now. You're not catching a bunch of, 1.5 pounders. When you catch one, they're, 2.5 to 4 pounds right now. I'd say if you catch 5 or 6 fish, one of them's going to be close to 4 pounds at least.
That's pretty cool.
So I think for co-anglers, I think it'll be a very good tournament. Because your guy's going to miss a lot of fish. And like you said, Jake, there's no point in dragging with your LiveScope, I think that's, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. Maybe if you're not from there, or if you're from there, I think the 2D will do you a little bit better sometimes. But that's if you know the bottom. It's like if you're looking for deer and you've seen that mountain a million times. When you see a set of ears sticking out, you go over that stuff with your 2D and you see something that's just a little bit different, or even if it's on your LiveScope, you see something that's a little bit different on your LiveScope, you know it's a fish. You're like, that rock didn't just drop out of the air. That's a bass.
You know every
and
rock
you throw
there.
at it and it turns.
Yeah, this was really giving me a lot of confidence when the guy knows
Yeah, I'm
exactly where
super
every
excited.
rock is on a point.
That's right. I don't remember that rock being on this 2 mile wide point.
Well,
Yeah,
So you're saying,
I know I'm gonna
so you're
start.
you know
saying,
what I mean.
I'm
though,
gonna go
like
to
on-
Home
on your
Depot,
local lake.
and I'm gonna give me some river rock, and I'm gonna start dumping them on every single point. And start messing with you.
First day of the pro
Oh,
tour, it's like, what is Brian doing? He's like, I'm
They
getting
are
Hayden out of my
Everywhere
way.
on this point, they
I
won't
just
even
say,
move.
I think sometimes the largemouth, they get lethargic and they like to glue to the bottom real hard, you know, to the point where you can hardly see them on anything. I would almost say that 2D is probably more effective than LiveScope for me. But I think that's going to give an advantage to guys out of the back of the boat to just drag a worm, you know. I think a lot of the guys in the front are going to get too caught up, and their non-boaters might kick their butts, you know, just dragging a worm out of the back. I bet you it's going to happen a little bit, at least for a couple
I'm gonna
guys.
I'm gonna have to hit the smoke shop on the way down and get a bulk pack of Bic lighters and a couple cartons, 4 or 5, and we're gonna get out the dragon weights. I guess we're gonna kick it old school.
A lot of
Carolina
sandwiches.
rigging. A lot of sandwiches. Couple fall malls. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that though. Like I think it's a cool lake that we could add to our lineup. And then after that we start really traveling, right? Everything goes, I think there's Delta and then we hit Arizona.
Yeah,
Oh,
where
Delta's
are
in
we
the
going?
fall.
We're going to Mojave, right?
Yeah. So it's Pedro, Mojave in May, and then we're back up north. Yeah, because we have a bit of a pause between the early May tournament and the Mojave, and then we're not going to the Columbia until August. So for the Pro Tour, that's a pretty big break, and then it's the Delta after that in October, and then championships November at Clear Lake.
Are you going to try to qualify for the TOC, for the Pro Am TOC?
Yeah.
On Almanor. You like Almanor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know if I like Almanor. I seem to do good there. I don't know if I really like it. It seems like it's
He likes
grind
the
every
checks that he drives away with.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like the
that's
jigs.
right. I saw him. I was going down the bank and I'm fishing, and it was I think it was our last day, top 10 day. And I'm kind of hustling, and I'm like trying to get to my next spot, and I see you, and you're idling out in the middle, and I'm like, dude, he broke something. I'm gonna have to tow him in. I don't remember what you were doing. And then all of a sudden you got on a plane, and I'm like, he said you were eating a sandwich, but later on I'm like, what the heck were you doing? Like everything I'm doing is at 100 miles an hour. Next spot. I'm trying to get that bite, and you're just out floating around in the middle, and I'm like, dude, he broke something. Like I gotta go check on him. And just as I loaded my stuff up to come over, you like get on plane and run to the other side of the lake, and I'm like, I remember asking you in the bag line, like, what the hell are you doing? And you were like, I don't know, eating a sandwich. I don't know. Lads, totally floored.
Yeah, it
I'm like,
happens sometimes.
mm-hmm.
That happened just as Shasta, the first day of Shasta. I had, like I said, it was probably, 10 in the morning, and I probably had like 12 and a half to 13 and a half pounds in the boat already. And I was pretty torn on whether I go to one arm or the other. And one arm was going to be a complete pre-fish. The other one was I knew there was fish on certain stuff, but do I save them? And I actually got on pad. I started running towards that pre-fish arm to go pre-fishing for the next day. And I stopped in the middle of the lake and I idled around in a couple circles for about, 5 or 6 minutes, deciding on where I wanted to go. And actually talking to my co-angler, and I'm like, dude, like, should I go burn my fish and And he actually brought up a good point. He was like, well, what if we don't fish tomorrow? Like, what if we get blown out for the lake, which we did.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. I need to go burn my fish right now. Go catch them all, try to get a lead on some of these guys. And I went and I pulled up to my first spot and caught like a 3.5. And then after that, I didn't catch nothing. But I probably wouldn't have caught nothing if I went to my pre-fish stuff too.
You were in the top 10 after day one though, so it was a good move.
Yeah, no, it was a real good move, especially since the wind blew us off the next day.
Right.
I think it benefited me a lot.
Your co-angler was a spy, you know that, right?
He's a spy.
He was a spy.
Yeah, you had
that's-
one heck of a good co-angler that first day.
He's
Yeah,
a
good buddy of
little
mine.
minion. Yeah, he's a minion. He gave us
He's
all your
pretty funny.
waypoints. Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh yeah, I got
I
them
told
all
him
on a
straight up,
trip,
I was
so-
like, sorry, dude, the way I'm fishing, dude, I'm going to catch them all. He did pretty good, though. I was catching them pretty good.
Oh, he's really good. Yeah, Casey, he's a heck of an angler. He shouldn't be a co-angler, but one day I'll
No,
get him
we
to
should
move
be
up to the
fishing
front
out
of the
front.
boat. That's what I tell him every time.
Yep.
Cool, guys. This is a good podcast. Hayden, you seem like you've done more than one podcast, so appreciate having you. And unless the
Did I
boys
do
have more
good?
questions,
Dude, this
You
was
did
we don't
great,
awesome.
have a
man.
rating.
Yeah.
You did
Really?
great.
We don't have a
Yeah.
I feel
rating
like I
scale
did
yet.
Yeah,
I don't
Dude,
know.
could
We'll
you
get there.
imagine if we had a rating
I'll
scale?
do better
like,
next time.
Like, I don't think we're qualified to rate
What would
anything.
the symbol be?
I-
Would it be jars of mayonnaise? Does he get 4 jars of
Oh,
mayonnaise?
yeah. 4 out of 5 jars.
I'll just have all my mayonnaise out behind me.
You just start putting them
holding
in
up.
front of you. Like, this gets 4 jars. Here we go.
No, this was
No,
this
I
was
thought
an
it was
awesome
awesome,
one.
dude.
We
Yeah.
really appreciate having you on.
Well, all
Well,
right.
this was an absolute pleasure.
Well, thanks,
dude. Thanks
gentlemen.
for jumping in.
Never mind. I'm not going
I
to even
mean,
say it.
We
he
can
should have been
tell.
on
We can
last
tell
week.
between my wife and I, who's the educated one, the one that reads all the books.
Yeah. I don't
I don't
see
even
any
know if they're
comic
reading
books
any of
back there.
I
There's
like
no
picture
comic
books.
books.
Sure, picture books are way better. There's no words in those.
Hey.
Those are easy.
Clearly,
probably
your,
keeps the
your
coloring
son's
books on the
are
bottom
somewhere
shelf.
else. Yeah, the
Yeah.
kids' books are somewhere else.
No, I let my son borrow mine.
Another good podcast, guys. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I believe I caused them. Hopefully, it's not a
You are a
detractor to
technical
how
difficulty.
100%. 100%.
Hayden's smart.
yeah,
He's
good
a,
one.
He's a that kid's.
Great one.
Watch that kid. Look out for him.
Oh, yeah. Like you said, Jake, you could only be in the top 10 so many times before you pop a few, and his time is coming. There's no doubt.
Well, I mean,
He even said
he's
it. He's been in 5 top 10s. His last 5 tournaments is top 10. Like, yeah. It's coming.
well, and he's an absolute outdoorsman. I mean, the hunting references that he continually uses in fishing. It's really neat. Like he is more than just a tournament angler. Like he's a guy who's totally connected to nature in that sense, and it's really neat to watch or listen to.
I think one of the coolest things about this podcast for me personally is talking to all these guys in, like, I do this for a living on the Elite Series, and I still feel like I don't know any of it. Just some of the stuff, the ways that these guys think is just, it blows me away.
Yeah. No, it is crazy. And like every time you talk to Hayden, like if you get a chance, you see him in the bar, buy him a drink and ask a couple questions. When he doesn't feel like, when he doesn't feel like you're trying to take something from him, the dude thinks at a really high level about fishing. Like he started talking, I'm like, really, Hayden? Like, how do you know that? Like, it's crazy. So and he's a cool dude. Like it's been fun meeting him because he did the pro tour last year. That's when I met, Bo too, but it's just a cool guy to meet. Freaking awesome competitors. So.
The only reason I've been wanting to do this for a long time is because I don't think there's two same perspectives on fishing. And that's what blows my mind is like, it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 2 years or 20, you're going to create their own path and your own journey and your own perspective. And it's hearing about it is just fascinating. I mean, we've done 5 episodes, and every person we've talked to gives this angle that you've never thought about before, or like you like to say, Jake, like makes you feel stupid again. Like it's really, really cool.
It's frustrating.
That's a
like,
perpetual state for Jake.
All right, whatever, Crayola, Crayon Eater.
Cheap shots are I'm good for the night.
I gotta tell.
Yep, that's it.
Before we get done, I gotta tell one funny story, and then you guys can hang up, kill this podcast on Jake. But I was digging around in all my swim baits now after talking with we had the podcast with Niapus, and I'm like, I think I had one of those weedless. It's like I might have got one of the originals. So I sent this picture to the guy that lives next door, or lives in where Eric Smith, the guy that makes the Hog Hunter. I sent him this picture.
Yeah.
I said, I already got one. And he wrote back, that's Huddleston, idiot.
Oh,
I was
man.
wondering where you were going with that. 'Cause that was
Oh,
That's a HUD, yeah.
awesome.
It's not like I would ever throw it anyway. I'd be that guy
Oh,
lobbing
you
it
were
out there,
so
and Brian
proud.
would be in.
Sweet.
all right. Yep. We'll see you guys. Thanks for listening to the Alpha BassCast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and rate us. We'll see you next time.